Hello, it's Bethany, and um, I didn't film much week 3, so this is going to be week 3 and week 4 of this school year. I just filmed a video actually explaining how I do Spanish in my classroom, so that will be a lot of fun to go watch. It should be up already by the time this video is up, so that's awesome. But yeah, so last week, I know I usually just talk about the cultural things we did, so I will try to talk more about like the math and language of everything that I do throughout the week. So last week we did astronomy, so like meteors, meteorites, comets, things like that, galaxies. Then we did the mammal, so the first years did the parts of, the second and third years did types and research. And then there was one, what did we start with last week? I'll have to look really quickly at my, okay, so I looked, it was just September calendar, and then the long black strip where you talk about how long the humans haven't been on Earth versus how much the humans have been. So we're going to do that. And then we also did the craters with the flower experiment that's on the experiment cards, and that was a lot of fun. This week, I've never done this before, but I don't think I'm doing a cultural today. It's Monday, but there's a few students who haven't finished the cultural work from the previous weeks that I want them to finish. So the students that have finished, I think I'm going to help them practice writing in their own words. And then I'll have the other students finish their other cultural works, and we'll see what else goes on this week. Okay, so I know I just said in the last clip, I'll show you like the math and language and everything. And the reason why I usually don't is because they put the work away. So what I did this time is I tried to take photos of the work as they were doing it so I can just insert photos. But obviously when the kids are in the classroom, I can't sit there filming. So I'll put pictures of what they did, but I did do a voiceover one of a short video you can watch of what I presented one day. And I'll try to do that more often because I think it's interesting to see, because in Montessori, we're not just saying, okay, so today's math for everybody is, one thing. It's not. It's you're presenting where the students are at, where maybe small groups or grade levels are at. So there's a lot of different things going on for math language. And then I do cultural all together. And speaking of cultural, I'll show you what we did. For math, though, I did review and do bar graphs. I'll insert that clip now of how I do bar graphs in a fun, hands-on way. Okay, so for math this week, we did, for the first years, one of the things we did is the bar graph on the floor. I love doing the bar graph on the floor to introduce bar graphs to the first years. So before I even lay this all out, I have a paper that it's in my free hub of resources. The title is Breakfast Foods. So then you think of 5 breakfast foods, and then you go around the group, and then when they do this on their own, they go around the class and interview everybody. And then you pick with what people like with tally marks, because I find if I review tally marks, they're like, we did that in kindergarten. But if you put tally marks with another thing that they haven't necessarily seen before, a lot of kids do not see bar graphs before 1st grade. Then they say, oh, well, yeah, I know how to do tally marks, but this is a new thing I could use it with. So that's a little bit easier. So then you have the students write out, you get the tally marks, ask everybody, write out, lay out the numbers, and then your options, and then the title at the top, and then you have square pieces of paper, and I know there's a lot of eggs on that tally, so you just say how many. Oops, there was 1 pancake, and then eggs, and you just keep putting and filling in the graph. And then the students on the second piece of paper, write the title, write the numbers, write the items, and then fill in the graph. And then I ask them questions like, which one has the most? How many more people picked eggs than pancakes? Which one had the least? Which is cereal and sausage because nobody picked it? That type of thing. So I also combined the coming of human beings with the love, the brain, the third grade lesson, and the thumb, the three things that make us human, with the basic human needs. And usually I'll just have the kids write these down and color a picture. But I actually this year did, I'm having them try to build out of air dry clay like little people, and then a little house, a shelter out of paper, and see what else they want to add for their basic human needs. So one thing I get asked a lot, I'm going to answer like a question, is my schedule of how my day runs in my classroom. So the school day is from 8:30 to 3:30. So the kids arrive, and usually they like to do math card and editing first, because after you finish math card and editing, you get to eat snack. And that's mostly due to the fact that especially in the past and also kind of this year, a lot of my kids go to before care, so then they're already hungry by the time they come in. But if they do math card and editing, which it's 3 math equations and then editing 2 sentences, it doesn't take them too long depending on the student, but some students it takes longer, and some students don't want to eat right away, so they'll do other work before then. But from 8:30 to 11:30, usually everybody, that is like our work time. The first at 9 o'clock we come to cultural group. So on Mondays I like to do history. On Tuesdays I do botany or zoology. On Wednesdays I do geography, and then on Thursdays I'll do a science. And then Fridays, it's usually you either get to pick your own cultural or you do make up cultural from the week that you didn't finish yet. With that, the students typically finish their cultural in the day, and that's how I kind of like it. I know some people just like present all the culturals and then let the kids pick when they do it, but I have them do a math, language, and cultural work every day, or try to, along with 7 other daily works on my work plan, which I have shown quite a bit, but I can show it again here in a second. So most kids do that right away, and then or they're like their morning work, but it also could be any time of the day, their daily tasks. And the daily tasks are just so I know that they're practicing a math equation, math facts, editing is writing, and then also on there is Raz Kids, so that's reading on the computer, and then typing is on the computer for like a practical life. And then the other one is Wasika, which is like a word study. Well, we call it Wasika, but it's the Washika, the Montessori company that has the words with the colored drawers. So they do 1 page of that from their workbook from that company every day, but you just print it out and put it on, So those are the daily works, and I like to have those because, for example, if they pick time for math, that's the math they're going to do for the day, is just like working on like reading a clock. But sometimes the math is also doing more equations of a different thing, so then in their morning work or their math card for the day they have a math equation. I also have other math cards they can pick from, but most students just like to practice the equations because it's like a nice routine, and then they can know what to do with it. For math and language presentations, I do it following my maps. So either that could be individual, it could be in grade level groups, or it could be small groups of kids that are ready for something. It just depends on where they're at. Typically at the beginning of the year, they're all kind of at the same. I'm figuring out where they are, so they get a lot of groups together or presentations together, but as the year progresses, they get more individualized, or sometimes I'll do like second and third year groups together for different topics. They're like, well, we want our own one, and that's fine. I could separate them. It just depends on what the day is. And sometimes I do let them pick a math or a language, but what I like to have them try to do is do a word study, a grammar. We do a reading group once a week, and then word study, grammar, reading group, and a writing. So those are like the 4, and then on Friday they could pick, or I usually just present something else if they want a new presentation. And then for math, I like to try to do a numeration, time, money, measurement, geometry, and then graphs, extra concept. So time, money, measurement could be looped through. So 1 week's time, 1 week's measurement, 1 week's money, and then bar graphs, word problems, and extra concepts. For that, it's like the same pattern through. And I like to try to get geometry on Wednesdays. So there's kind of like, okay, well, you haven't done geometry yet this week, but sometimes we do it a different day. It just depends. If I'm presenting in a large group, especially at the beginning when I presented on my Montessori journey as a teacher, I presented in like grade level groups a lot. I would have that be the pattern, so then we know they would get everything. But right now it's just I follow my maps, and my maps are following the pattern, especially the whole one, but you also have the individual maps for all those concepts. So you could say, okay, you're on geometry, the next geometry is this. But sometimes it takes students longer times than others, and that's okay too. That's why it's individualized and they get their work done and everything. So that's good. So then after 11:30, well, at like 11 or 11:15, I'll call them to group and I'll read them a picture book, and then I'll ask them questions. This is how to make a picture book longer, because some picture books are longer than others, and I just don't like, especially for the older grades, how short picture books are. And then it's like, okay, I could either read one in 2 minutes or 10 minutes. So for either one, I will ask questions at the end, and everybody has to answer a question, or like the group has to answer the question depending on the time. So also I know they're listening, because it's very easy for them to tune out a book. So then they eat lunch and have recess for an hour, and then also after that we come back. I've been reading a picture book now, but usually I'll start to pick a chapter book and we'll read that after lunch, and then they go back and do their work. Usually from like 1 and then till 2:30, and then sometimes I have an extra afternoon activity or presentation, and sometimes I don't. But I also do presentations in the afternoon if a student needs one, like for math or language they didn't do in the morning, or they picked other works to do. And so at 2:30 we come all together and do a reading group. So that's very nice. And then the reading group is not the same as the reading group. It's silent reading time. So they do their reading work, which is just 1 page. I use the Flyleaf Publishing, and then they get to pick like a book to read until we go back outside for recess. Also, sometimes I've never had a group of kids more hungry than this group of kids. So, and I've noticed that progressively as I've taught. So we eat an afternoon snack at about 2, like all together, because by the end of the day, they're like, okay, is it, we're like ready to be done, especially the 1 year I did the early childhood, like they were all done by 1:30 when I had the kindergartners just in the afternoon. I'm like, that's a long time for these, the little ones to stay, but, and like keep learning, but that's okay with the, but with the elementary, it's different. But I've never had people ask for afternoon snack. I don't know, but this year they're like, well, we just want to eat an afternoon snack, and it's not because they want to avoid work. It's because they're actually hungry, like, because they'll just go straight back to work after 2. So, and that snack is usually pretty short as compared to the morning snack. Usually I'll try to like make sure it's just like a 10-minute snack, but sometimes I get busy, and like I've tried the timer thing, but then the kids just aren't honest and flip it. So, and then the timers get broken so easily too. So I don't know. Kids are pretty usually good about that. So that's our schedule. But then for specials, I do well, our school does, we have music on Mondays, and that's during the morning part. Then we have art on Tuesday, that's in the afternoon, and they don't go all together. They go for an hour to another room in small groups, and that's very nice. So then there's kids still in here that I work with, so then it's a smaller group, so it's nice. And then to get more individual presentations that way, on Tuesdays we have gym in the on Wednesdays we have gym in the morning, and then on Thursdays we have a cooking class. The gym and cooking class are every other week, so that's the morning for Thursdays. And then every week I just do with my students, the lower elementary and the kindergarten students, chess. I used to host chess as a before school club, because a lot of the chess students went to before care, but I decided this year I want to do it as like during class time, so like everybody gets a chance to come, and it's been a lot of fun. And I would definitely suggest, even if you don't play chess, just learn and do that, because I like going to the chess tournaments with the kids. It's a lot of fun. And so we'll see if any of them come this year. That'll be a lot of fun. And then on Friday afternoons, just with my class, I do Spanish as an unofficial special, because I have a bachelor's degree in Spanish and I like to teach Spanish. And I just did a whole video talking about how I teach the Spanish that's more Montessori and less boring, because I remember as a kid I didn't like learning Spanish as a child, but then I went on to major in it in college. So you just never know. That's why we try to expose them to so much. So I've been trying to keep up different things with that. So that's kind of the rundown and schedule of my classroom, but thank you for watching.